All right, folks, we're looking at code. We're always looking at code here on Ants Are Everywhere, the Ants Are Everywhere channel. And we've looked at so many open source repos. You got to check out the backlog if you haven't checked out the backlog. And today we're taking a look at AI plugins for Emacs. Lots of people are using VS Code for the AI plugins. That's what Cursor is doing. Klein is a VS Code plugin. There are no doubt a billion others. A lot of people have taken to forking VS Code, which seems reasonable. But I don't enjoy using VS Code. I've used it a little bit. I enjoy using Emacs. So I thought it'd be good to see what's out here. There are at least a couple of these that I know of. One is Aider.el, which is using Aider in particular as a way to talk to the LLMs. And another is AiderMacs. I don't know which one is more suited to me and the way I like to live my life. But maybe we'll learn a little bit. I did 2 videos looking at the Aider code, and from a broad perspective, there's not a lot to it. It's basically a loop that has built-in prompts that seem to work well mostly, and talks to the LLM in a loop, and it can do things like run your build commands, run your test commands, and it also provides the LLM with information about your code base. It used to do that via C tags. Now it does it via, I think the most recent one is probably, tree sitter, which is going to give it syntactical information rather than semantic information about your code base. We also looked for 2 videos at Kithe, which is a project that is unrelated to LLMs, but that provides semantic information rather than just syntactical information about your code base. But so far that doesn't interface with any LLMs in any way I know. But when I've been using Aider to explore it, I'm just using the command line or a terminal in Emacs. So I thought it'd be good to figure out what they have to offer in a more built-in variety. I feel like Aider.el, I've seen more activity on social media. That might just mean they have better marketing. It might mean that they are further along. And hello to Bot Eater. Bot Eater's been hanging out a lot. I really appreciate that, Bot Eater. You are a champion. You're doing great. All right, we are looking at eLisp, though. eLisp is a language I don't know. I'm going to guess Bot Eater doesn't know it. I'm going to guess most people looking at this video don't know it. That's okay. We're going to figure it out together. And I was in the middle of saying something I don't quite know. But I think that what I was saying is that these are mostly look roughly equivalent in popularity. They both have low single-digit number of issues. They both have a number of stars that hovers around between 500 and 600. Similar number, Aidermacs has more forks. And they have similar number of watches. So let's check it out. Bot Eater is saying they don't know what that is. It is Emacs Lisp is a variant of Lisp. Do you know what Lisp is? But it's a variant of Lisp that is for Emacs. And that's basically all that you need to know. There's a little bit of weirdness around Emacs Lisp compared to modern programming languages. I think essentially by default, all variables are global. So let's check it out. I think I'm going to start with Aider.el. I don't know how big it is or how long it's going to take us to kind of go through these. Aider.el has a very cheerful README, the kind of classic cheerful emoji-driven README, although this one doesn't have any emojis, but it does have a nice AI-generated lightsaber guy. Although his lightsaber looks like it's made out of wood. Methods from classic books. Classic books. Okay, I guess the classic book here is the Martin Fowler book. I don't know what this is supposed to be. So this is just linking to some book. This might just be an Amazon affiliate link. I don't know. These are just some books. AI assisted code reading. And these are strings. Let's see if I can find this string. I don't know if this is supposed to be referring to something in the repo, or if this is just like AI generated nonsense. This does seem to maybe refer to a method, refactor book method. This looks a little bit strange. Let's look at Aider.el. Apply refactoring techniques or request suggestions. Uses current context. If TDD mode is non-nil, adjust prompts and instructions for the TDD refactor stage. Okay. TDD is what? Green, right? I mean, not green. I was just reading the word green. TDD, I think, is probably test-driven development, which is different from the Martin Fowler book, I thought. Should I click on here? I really just want it on some. Is there still Google Books? Principles in refactoring. Bad smells. Building tests, refactoring, composing methods, moving features between objects, organizing data. I mean, tests play a role. I don't know really what the distinction is here. So it has this thing called Aider TDD cycle. This is not usually how I look at code, but I was kind of curious about what was going on in the README. So I'm here now. A guide through test-driven development cycle, red-green refactor, helps users follow Kenn TDD methodology with AI assistance. I mean, this is a little bit cool because it seems like they're not only providing an interface to Aider, they're building a methodology around Aider. I feel like, well, never mind. I feel like from my perspective, I kind of want something a little bit simpler than Aider that lets me adjust my prompts and send different contextual information. So I'm kind of, that's where my brain is through a lot of this. And I wonder if Cursor is, if some of this is from Cursor. Refactoring with Cursor experience. It seems like at least 4 months ago, people were having some trouble getting Cursor to refactor things, which you would expect because refactoring requires a lot of context. And so you would probably need the entire code base or something. All right, but we have this UI open in, there's something like maybe an Emacs Hydra here, which is kind of like a little menu with key prefixes. You can open things, run Aider, switch to the Aider buffer, reset, show last, commit, etc. These are like Git operations. Open history, change function, region, write unit tests, refactor code. Test-driven development. Question on function region. So this is maybe like a contextual, like your cursor is at a particular point. Question without context. Code reading. And debug. I'm just curious if there's test-driven development stuff here. Okay. All right. So this is already pretty interesting to me. But now let's take a look at this Aidermacs. This is Aider.el. Aidermacs, they might have a different point of view. AI pair programming. This is some logo that looks AI drawn. It appears to be some sort of circuit board. Is that kind of looks like an animal, a squid maybe. By integrating Aider, blah, 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 blah. If you're missing cursor, so this is kind of deliberately targeting the cursor people that might try to implement cursor features. It also has this kind of maggot. I don't know if you use Emacs, there's another kind of maggot Hydra-like interface, start session, reset session, switching between the different modes. Refresh the repo map. Adding and dropping files from the chat. Many people have pointed out that Aider has a kind of strange workflow where you send files in the chat and you have to add and drop them. And it doesn't seem great at knowing which files automatically need to be sent or not sent or whatever. And then asking questions and stuff. Intelligent model selection with multiple backends. Built-in ediff integration for AI generated changes. So the way Aider works is it asks for diffs, but they don't seem to be real diffs. They're kind of these like wacky markdown looking diffs. I don't know if there's a way to get the LLMs to send actual diffs, which seems like it would be both better supported by tools and fewer tokens. For me, superior to cursor, according to whatever, this guy from Reddit. This is amazing. Every time I upgrade my packages, I see your new commits. Okay, so these people seem to like it. I don't know how to tell, how to know where to start. Something about book. Oh no, hook. Dynamic model selection. Aidermacs offers intelligent model selection for solo non-architect mode, automatically detecting and integrating with multiple AI providers. I don't know why you'd want to do it transiently. Select from either proper blah, blah, blah. Compatible with the current workflow. Okay. Separating code reasoning and editing models. An experimental mode for 2 specialized models for each coding task. Architect model for reasoning and an editor model for code generation. This approach has achieved state-of-the-art results in Aider's code editing benchmark. I don't know about that. Okay, we can try that. I haven't tried it. Maybe this is just the state-of-the-art for Aider's benchmark in particular. Okay, and then there's a bunch of configuration. Customize the weak model. The weak model is used for commit messages and chat history summarization. Although, I kind of feel like the strong models are so strong that I feel tempted to use them for everything. Although I haven't honestly looked at my bill yet for Gemini. Okay, and we also have prompt selection and history. Well, prompt selection. I thought that Aider didn't let you send custom prompts other than the chat. Seems like the prompts were built in. System prompts, that's what I mean. Okay. I think I've read this fact before, but not really since I've used Aider. I think I find the prompt to be not great. This is not supposed to be about Aider. This is supposed to be about these Emacs plugins, but I guess I keep going down rabbit holes, man. That's how things are. Okay. So let's take a look at some of this code now. And I don't really know where to start because I don't know Emacs Lisp. Etsy, I'm going to guess, is just nothing, but I thought it was going to be config, but it is Lisp. These are functions. I don't know if they're important functions. We have snippets. I don't know if these are like snippets. add parameter algorithm, class code alternatives, code review, code gen, commit, create boilerplate, create class, debug, create unit tests. I mean, these look potentially cool. Design, fix errors, explain code, improve, generate README. I wanted to do all these things. These are things I want. This looks promising. Tests are good. I love tests. Can we see how many tests there are? A few. At least a few test files. Maybe they are large in size and scope. Pretty good. And then examples. And I guess that most of the stuff is in these ones. So Aider core. Aider Doom is presumably some Doom Max integrations. Aider discussion. I have no idea. Code read, code change, Agile. Helm is some sort of Emacs UI. Incremental completion. There are like 6 billion of these incremental completion things. It's basically like you type in some characters and it starts completing it for search and whatnot, I think. Legacy code, prompt mode. Aider.el is probably the main entry point. And some images and stuff. All right, so we've got a bunch of files open in Aider.el. So let's open some stuff in Aidermacs. We have Aidermacs.el. Models, backend, vterm, and just less stuff all around. Let's look at this one first, I guess, since this seems to be smaller in scope. There's something to be said with something that's smaller and simpler. We've got several lines, about 1,100 lines of code. Aidermacs integrates with Aider for AI-assisted code modification in Emacs. So def group, I think, is for defining a configuration group. And this is just like some string that says the Aidermacs group is for, I guess, configuring Aider. And it has a string that tells you what Aider is about. Aidermacs program is a thing you can customize. It's like, what is the name of the program, I guess? Or path of the Aidermacs program. The Aidermacs program or the Aider program? Whether to use architect mode. And I thought that architect mode was something that you, maybe architect mode is supposed to be on all the time. I was thinking of it as something you turn on only for certain questions, but if it's a variable that you just toggle on and off, it seems like Aidermacs is assuming it's for something you want either all the time or not all the time. Okay, and then config and so on and so forth. We have configs for like the project root, etc. This is some menu thing. Transient define prefix, Aider, transient menu. Okay, and this is just defining, this is just dispatching based on the key that you press, which function to dispatch. And so on. And let's see if we can find, so Aidermacs switch the buffer, switch to the Aidermacs buffer. If buffer name is provided. So let's find out, maybe comment. Yeah, they're using comment, I guess, to talk to the Python interpreter. Aider is just a Python program that I assume runs in like a modified Python shell. And it seems like we're using comment to talk to it. Aidermacs send command. Send command to the corresponding Aidermacs process. Okay, great. And this is some buffer switching stuff. Somewhere there's a processed command that's defined. Or maybe this is just some function. Okay. Drop current file. Let's look at, where did it go? And this command is saying the /drop is the Aider command to drop the file. And so this is presumably some setup to figure out which file we're currently on. And this is just send using comment the text string to drop it. And I'm guessing command maybe no. I don't know where command is defined. I would have guessed that this was this prepare file path seems to be just working on the string. Oh, okay. Oh, this is just let's start binding the result of this string manipulation to the like variable command, and then we're sending. The function is Aidermacs send command. Okay, that's fine. So it looks like Aidermacs, for whatever virtues it has, is doesn't have quite the scope of Aider.el. So let's head back to Aider.el. And let's start at Aider.el, the entry point. This is 173 lines of code, so a small entry point. Boost your programming efficiency! ! Okay. So these are some popular models. This is just like defining a variable. And they say Gemini is state of the art. That's my experience. What do they say about Claude? Where's Claude? This is called Sonnet. Sonnet is a long poem, so I think that's the big sonnet. I mean, the big Claude. I'm not sure. Okay, so this is just configuring AI stuff. This is some menu. Run Aider, run Aider. I guess they're using the Aider dash prefix for all of their functions, as opposed to like Aidermacs. Switch the buffer, reset, add current. I assume that a lot of these work basically the same way. That we are talking to Aider with some comment stuff and so on. Aider clear buffer. Switch to the Aider buffer and clear its contents. This is add a function, Aider clear buffer. It will switch Aider buffer and call comment clear buffer. So this add a function, this is a command to the AI. This is either something the LLM wrote, because the LLMs like to add useless commands, and we can talk about why that is, or this is a command that the author of Aider wrote here, and then the LLMs implemented it and they forgot to delete it, I think is what's going on here. And as to why the LLMs like to add useless commands, my guess is it's because they, during their random number generation process, I think they probably fill out a template of, I said commands, but they add useless comments. I think they fill out a template of comments that kind of defines, not quite in pseudocode, but kind of like as if you were doing a code interview, like what your process would be. Like first I'm going to define this function, and I'll define this function. And then I think it probably fills those out. And I'm going to guess that that's where those comments come from. They're just kind of a legacy of the thinking process. And so given this comment, which I suspect is tells us that they are using Aider to develop this plugin, which why wouldn't you? That gives you a feedback loop and it will continue to improve. The only danger there that I see is that eventually your code base will become so, the LLMs are good at starting code bases. They're good at doing simple demo apps and kind of small in scope stuff that junior developers would ordinarily do. But so far, they're not great at understanding like big code bases. So at some point there will be, so you'll start a project and at some point it will probably become big enough that the LLM can't understand it well. And that's where you need like better information. And Aider tries to give that to the LLM with a repo map, which they're basically mostly, I think, giving syntactical information in the form of like tree sitter parse. But I think that we're going to have to improve that. My guess is that Google internally has that improved very well. but I don't work there anymore, so I don't know what they're doing internally. Okay, so here's a function called maybe prompt and set reasoning effort. Oh, set reasoning effort is like a variable in Aider about like how many tokens to use. Maybe that's not so important. Change model. Okay. So as an entry point, that's pretty good. Prompt model is Aider prompt mode. Oh, prompt mode, not prompt model. Prompt mode.el for editing Aider prompt files. Okay, so this is some mode for editing the files. We're requiring org. And we've got this snippet stuff and some evil mode stuff, evil define key. Okay. So we're editing the prompts in org mode syntax, which sounds good to me. Send line or region, send block or region. So this is kind of like standard Emacs stuff, sending lines and regions and stuff to the terminal, I assume. Handle subtree command. Switch to or start an Aider session for subdir rel path relative to git root. Start an Aider session. So I guess it's starting a new Aider session for a path. Handle subtree command. Okay. I don't know yet why you would do this. Send a trimmed line. Trim line is send it as a command to Aider if not empty. I still don't know what the subtree thing is about. Send line or region, etc. Okay. Send block or region. Open prompt file. So when you call open prompt file, open Aider prompt file under git repo root. If it doesn't exist, create it with the command binding help and sample prompt. Okay. This is some big stuff. Maybe this is the stuff that gets added to, maybe it doesn't get saved to the file, but maybe kind of like maggot, it will add like kind of fake code comments to the beginning of the buffer to tell you how to use this mode in Emacs. Font lock cycle command. Cycle through file commands on the current line. If it doesn't contain a file command, add to the beginning. Okay, so this is like some org mode to do state toggling stuff. That's kind of cool. I don't know really what we are doing here. Maybe it's adding the whole subdirectory to the kind of like Git, like listing a bunch of files, and you're just telling it to like add or drop him or whatever. Okay. Legacy code. I don't know what they're doing here. Provides legacy code handling techniques based on this book. The sprout method identifies themes. Huh. Let's look at sprout method. Apply the sprout method technique to add new functionality. Creates a new method for the new functionality to minimize changes to existing code. Okay. So somehow we're inputting a function, maybe from context. We're getting an active region. And something about, we're adding something maybe, or some description either that applies to the selected code or to the file. Describe the new functionality. Okay, so it's going to prompt you. Okay. So you want to add some functionality and you tell it what the method name is. And this is just kind of like a code snippet for doing that. It seems like this stuff should ultimately be moved to some other, maybe JSON or markdown format so that users can add these sorts of things. But this sort of thing looks cool. Legacy code sprout. So this is basically like a simple call and response thing. We're like, we have this method with a prompt, and we're going to ask you the information we need to get this particular workflow done. And this looks really cool. I don't know how it works in practice. We'll have to see that. Code change. In fact, I feel like I understand what these things are about. Code read. I don't know what code read is. Code reading techniques from code reading. The open source perspective. I don't even know this book. A unique and essential reference that focuses on the reading comprehensions of existing software code. Cool. By Diomidis Spinalis. Sounds like a Greek name. You've got to add a new you've got a data add a new feature to a 34,000 line program. Where do you start? But when was it written? And who is this guy? Okay. 2003. Seems like a classic. All right. So these are, again, stuff from the books. That's good. Aider discussion. Although, let's see what some of the things are. Analyze for performance bottlenecks, for code quality and maintainability. Analyze it. These are good. These are some of these stuff seems like you would want them not just to run. Running in your editor is good. Running on the CI server as code review would be even cooler. I wonder if there's like Garrett stuff. AI code review. This looks cool. I'm sure there's GitLab code review. And I'm sure there are big companies around it. Oh, I mean, I meant GitHub and not GitLab. Six months ago, this person was asking, so PR agent from Codium, it's free. We can maybe look at this at some point. I don't know if it's specifically for GitHub, but it's probably going to do kind of the same sorts of things, like a code review, whatchamacallit. I guess one benefit of having it in your editor is that code review obviously happens going forward. It doesn't necessarily run on existing code, although that's just you could run that as a batch job. All right. I feel like I understand everything about Aider Emacs. I don't really know what else there is to look at. Aider.core. Apply markdown highlighting. Set up markdown highlighting for Aider buffer with optimized performance. What is the markdown that we're highlighting? Oh, this is I'm guessing that this is maybe the sort of thing that like ChatGPT does, where it will, if you have code, it will do syntax highlighting for your code. I thought I did this coding convention one. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm just going to call it a day here. I thought this was going to be pretty hard to understand, but I feel like I know what it's about. Although let's do look at some of these prompts. I think I just closed some of them. These are just individual like snippet prompts. And they're just sending kind of what you would expect commands with like the Aider command syntax, the slash syntax ask. Generate documentation for the code below. Include detailed instructions to allow a developer to run it on a local machine. Explain what it does. But how would it know this? I guess this really depends on what your development environment is. Explain what the code does and list vulnerabilities. List vulnerabilities. Huh. That seems like a separate thing. Review this code for errors and refactor to fix any issues. Let's just fix errors. Review this code. Again, for something complicated enough, this will depend on. I guess you can assume that code around it is accurate, which is not the case for my development style, because I tend to like when I write code, I like to get at least in the language that I understand, which is not what I've been doing on this channel. But I like to get to a point where things kind of like work at all, so that I can have a development loop and then improve things. So at the beginning stages of when I'm writing a commit, basically everything I've written is broken in some way. So for that, you would need a fix this stuff command that like sends all of the stuff that you've changed, and possibly also other context that tells you about like the APIs that you've changed. But if you're assuming that everything else is working and you're just adding like a new function, something small in scope, then the way that they have it will work. Architect, generate 2 unit tests for the provided code, one that is expected to pass and one that is expected to fail. Okay, that seems good. Lorist Forest. So these have different contributors. I don't know if these are like Lorist Forest. I don't think is anyone's real name. That may be a GitHub username. I'm experiencing the following bug. I guess you are maybe prompted. I don't know what this syntax means. Here's the relevant code. How can I fix it? And what could be causing it, and how can I fix it? Okay. I think that we'll get to that in a second. Please review the following code. Consider quality, potential bugs, performance, etc. Also Lorist Forest. So I think you want and Aider does this. You want like a loop. If you're debugging, the best thing would be to have a reproducible thing and give it a command to run. And if it fails, the bug is still there. And if it passes, the bug is gone. And just run that in a loop until it needs your input, or hopefully doesn't need your input and just fixes the bug. That's a little bit dangerous cost-wise, because sometimes if the prompting is not very good, the LLMs will be like lazy and like keep making changes, and like your code is suddenly pointing in a completely new direction. All the decisions have changed instead of like fixing the one bug that was there. I don't know how to solve that problem yet, though. Algorithm. Implement a name of algorithm in programming language. Please include the main function with clear parameter and return types, helper functions if necessary, time and space complexity analysis, and example usages. It's basically an interview. Okay. Improve error handling. Generate cheat sheet. Yeah, I mean these are good. And the promise of a thing like this is that hopefully these sorts of prompts will improve over time. So they'll be kind of like bound to a keystroke or to a command somewhere in your workflow, and you'll be able to, if it doesn't work quite well yet, it might work really well in a couple of months when the LLMs improve, or as they like figure out a better prompt or better context to send in the prompt. And so I think that that's going to be a virtuous cycle. So I'll try Aider.el next time I do a code writing thing. And that's all for today. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the world of open source code, and have a beautiful week.